Ba-da-ba-da-bow. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode, I think it's 258, isn't it, that we're on? Of Abe Thompson and Other Disappointments. You're very welcome here in these parts. It's your twice, sometimes thrice weekly delve into the worlds of news, politics, dystopia, and all things awful. Busy week in the news, obviously, at the moment. Over in the US, you've got Biden, Trump going head-to-head. Nikki Haley still hanging in there, isn't she? Still spending Trump's money for him. Not that he needs much help in doing that. Don't know if it escaped your attention, if it just sort of, skipped by your periphery, but old Donnie Trump is $450 million in the hole now. 450 million. So, all things considered, suddenly my £250,000 mortgage doesn't feel so bad. I felt like a loser this time last week. Since I've heard about his financial challenges, I'm actually feeling like a bit of a baller. Anyway, so yes, the US continues its slide into political, I was going to say economic. I think economically they're doing all right. Political, psychological, culture war insanity over there. I mean, the US, I always look at the US like it's sort of, it's 6 months to 2 years ahead of where the UK is right now. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like a sort of preview of coming attractions. Because in the US, like, normally what they do is they come up with a sort of reasonable idea for entertainment. Or not even entertainment, if it's something like the anti-vax movement, they just come up with an idea, or someone goes a bit crazy, it gets a little bit of airtime, and then people over here go, oh, we should do that. We should, just like America, and then even the programs and the movies that we then try to rehash over here, like when they tried to remake The Golden Girls, but in Brighton, wasn't it? It was the Brighton Bells or something? The Brighton Bells, the Golden Girls. So I seem to remember that was remade. Hi, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, yes, I've got another camera. Look, 2 camera setup now. Not bragging, but it is there. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, so, whatever they do in America, politically, psychologically, entertainment-wise, we seem to do it about 6 months to 2 years later down the line. It was true with the Brexit insanity and the Trump-Clinton stuff. And it was true with the anti-vax movement. And now it's going to be true with their god-awful election that's coming up. And ours is going to be terrible too. Should I spend the whole episode talking about how insane and terrible things are about to become? I saw somebody talking the other day about deep fakes. They were like, these 2 coming elections in the US and here in the UK are going to be the worst democratic incidents or events that you have witnessed yet today. And I was like, I've been saying this for like 2 years. I've been saying, when I'm saying like, oh, America is like 6 months to 2 years ahead of like where we are, I'm 6 months to 2 years ahead of where we are. Like, I'm ahead of all of them. 3 or 4 years now, I've been saying that the US is on a very slow glacial slide into civil war. So it starts with me, then the US do it, and then the UK eventually catches up. Anyway, let's not spend the entire episode, patting myself on the back for being the veritable political Nostradamus that I've recently been. Cheers, by the way. I could talk about Lee Anderson again. I could rant about Lee Anderson for hours. There's so many angles. There's so many layers to that story, isn't there? There's his background of, blocking the travellers from getting to their site was the reason that he got ejected from Labour. I've talked about that before. I don't want to rehash all that stuff again. We could talk about the fact he faked a doorstep interview. You know, he's being followed around by the Daily Mail. You'd think the Daily Mail would be a little bit kinder to him, wouldn't you? But they weren't. They dobbed him right in. They created this like actually quite well put together video to expose him. They said, like, the journalist was like, I've been doing these sorts of features and interviews for years, like decades, and I have never seen a politician fake a doorstep interview as brazenly as this bleached Frankenstein-looking motherfucker. Like, that was, I mean, he didn't say it quite like that. You know, I'm paraphrasing somewhat, but, you know, that was the gist of it. And he caught him red-handed. The guy was wearing a mic. He disappears off like 20 feet away, makes a little call, and then it sounds like he's talking to his mate. Like, the audio, they hear it from inside their van or whatever, and they're like, and it's audio of the guy going, of Lee Anderson going, yeah, just like pretend that you don't know me, and say that you wouldn't vote Tory before, but now because I'm voting. Like, it was that sort of thing. He was like, all right, see you in a minute. And then they go to the doorstep, they knock on the door, and the guy says exactly that. So obviously fake. Should have been the end of his career. People should have just laughed him out of Westminster. Like, aren't you the guy that faked the doorstep interview? Oh, well, but yeah, get the fuck out of it. What are you playing at? So, you know, we could talk about that stuff again. We could spool forward, you know, a couple of years and then talk about this most recent shame of his in his swelling portfolio. You know, the F off back to France, all of that stuff. How else has he shamed himself? When he did the video on GB News, he sat there like all very earnestly talking to the camera. He was like, my boy came back from university and he told me something very shocking. He told me something and he builds it up and builds it up. Like, he should have been a comedian, Lee Anderson. I mean, say what you like, he's got a delivery to him, hasn't he? He's got a tone to him. Anyway, he was regaling us with this story in his video where he like builds it up, and then he like crashes it down like a comedian would. He was like, and then finally, my son says, Dad, I'm a vegetarian. And it was like the timing was just there. Should have been a comedian, or at least a game show host. So yeah, I mean, look, we could talk about all of that stuff again. We could rehash it all, drag it all out. But no. You know, people far more articulate and eloquent than I have already, I think, pulled this story to pieces. Like, we all know, like, he said something Islamophobic. He said something racist. Then he lost the whip. They've basically thrown him out of the Parliamentary Conservative Party. And now there's a lot of people saying, no, you should get him back. What are you doing, Rish? What are you doing? You've got to get Lee back. We can't survive a day without that genius. So, which reminds me, do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Clarkson. Do you remember that point? I mean, there's been two periods of Clarkson being ejected or like kicked out of places, isn't there? But the most famous one that leaps to mind is the story where he slaps or punches his, is it line producer or actual producer or someone, like, he got in an argument with somebody on set, didn't he? Of Top Gear. This is the whole reason why Top Gear moved to Amazon and became the Grand Tour, was because Clarkson allegedly punched this producer in the face over something ridiculous like a steak. Like, it sounded like a scene out of a Will Ferrell movie, didn't it? You know, I'm not doing anything until somebody gets me my bagel. It's like that's Kent Brockman, you know, that kind of vibe. But the reason it reminds me of that is because literally 12 hours after it happened, 12 hours, not even enough time for any internal investigation to take place. Not even enough time for the guy's bruise to go down. There were people all over Twitter and across the media going like, oh, get him back. You know, we've all had a fracas, or whatever it was that they were terming it. I was reading all these think pieces at the time going like, isn't it funny how when middle-class people smack each other around the face, it's a fracas. When working-class people do it, it's assault. It's a criminal charge. They're thugs. They're yobbos. When Clarkson does it, but they had a minor disagreement, and yes, there may have been fisticuffs thrown, albeit briefly. But, you know, we're all grown-ups, and they shook hands, and then we all get on. I don't think there's any reason he needs to lose his job over it. Get him back. Petitions with, like, 100,000 signatures out there. Reinstall Clarkson. Boycott the BBC. All of that stuff. And I remember at the time, I was like, listen, if you are really upset that your hero, Jeremy Clarkson, if you're upset that he's lost his job and you think it's not right, you know, people shouldn't lose their jobs for physically assaulting a colleague. If you think anyone stands a chance at being rehired after gross misconduct and criminal activity on site under the BBC's duty of care, if you think he should be reinstalled, here's what you do. I was like, I want you to go into your HR director's office tomorrow and lamp that motherfucker around the chops. Just go to town on him. And then, here's what you do. Wait a couple of hours, see what happens, see what the repercussions are. Come back on Twitter and tell us all about it. Tell us how it worked out. And it very much seems to be the same kind of mentality now with Leanderthal, doesn't it? He's obviously said something completely unacceptable. You know, lots of people are calling it racist. Lots of people are calling it Islamophobic. He's refusing to apologize. So there's not even that. Like, you can't even go, look, he apologized. He hasn't even close to apologized. He's actually done the opposite. I mean, he's like, I've got nothing to apologize for. He even put out a statement saying, I was raised to, like, if you say sorry, it's a sign of weakness. Like, how ignorant and ridiculous is that? Like, do you hear yourself? You can never apologize. Wow. So they can't even dig him out like that and say like, oh, well, look, he said sorry. I think we all just want to move on now. He hasn't apologized. He's doubled down. Lots of people are calling it racist and Islamophobic. And yeah, so we are where we are. God, I said I wasn't going to talk about it, didn't I? And here I am rabbiting away, blethering. What do you guys think is going to happen to him? A lot of people saying he's going to join Reform, which I thought was really interesting up until a point. Like, people who I am close to, who know more about politics than I do, they were like, countdown to when Lee Anderson joins Reform, and 3, 2, 1, you know, this is like in the immediate aftermath, like minutes after he got sacked. And I was like, I could see him fitting in well there. I could. He's exactly their sort of MP, isn't he? You know, he's a bit ignorant, working class, salt of the earth, you know, a troublemaker, not scared to get into contentious or salacious situations with news reports. I could see him kind of fitting in there. However, what I thought was interesting about the idea that Leanderthal might join Reform was that Nigel Farage is not the leader of Reform, right? At the moment. He could rejoin. A lot of people are saying he will rejoin before the general election, because then it'll be this big sort of thing. It's like like the return of Farage. Like, it'll be a big tabloid event. But at the moment, my understanding of it, and forgive me if I've got this slightly wrong, because I'm not sure of his exact job title, but Ben Habib, ladies and gents, Ben Habib, I think, is the de facto leader, or the CEO, is it, of Reform? I suppose I could just fucking Google it, couldn't I? What is Ben Habib? Ben Habib is a British Pakistani businessman and politician serving as co-deputy leader of Reform UK. Okay, co-deputy leader. So, I did think it was interesting that of all the people, like Nigel Farage is saying he's going to join Reform. Loads of people sort of in opposition and activist groups are like, he's obviously going to join Reform. And then this guy, Ben Habib, says it's difficult to imagine him joining Reform. He's a co-deputy leader. He's like, I would first, before I accepted him in, I would first have to get an understanding of what he meant by Islamists have taken control of London. So even he, Ben Habib, is like, yeah, I mean, listen, hang on a second. In fact, I think it was worse than that. I think he called him like inarticulate and he's not a good communicator. He's a bit, you know, I mean, here I am saying like, he's got the tone, he's got the delivery. And that may be true for a game show host. But as a politician, I guess, you know, they've got to make sure that their sheets are whiter than white. And so the idea that somebody might just clap their gums with loose lips and get the entire party in trouble, into disrepute, right? But anyway, yeah, I think it was interesting that, you know, so many people were saying he might join Reform. And then this co-deputy leader, who is himself a member of an ethnic minority, you know, a person of colour, is one of the only ones to go, I need to get an understanding of what he meant by all of that. And I was also struck by the fact that he is one of the only people of colour. There's him and there's Baroness... what's her fucking name? Can't remember her name now. She's a Tory baroness in the House of Lords. And she's made a big point of pointing out Tory Islamophobia before. And she has, like, pushed back. But it's just those two people of colour who are actually pushing back on this, you know, from within the ranks of the Conservative Party. I think it's really, really interesting that Rishi Sunak, obviously a person of colour, is going on record and saying precisely the opposite. He's like, well, I'm living proof that there isn't such a thing as racism in Britain. That's him on the front page of the Times today. Look at me. If I can make it, I'm a Hindu guy. If I can make it, then I guess the whole racism thing is just you've imagined it all you lot. Like, what are you playing at? There's no barriers in your way. Who told you there was barriers in your way? Work harder. And then so then the rest of the political discourse is dominated by people like Isabel Oakeshott and Nigel Farage. Dan Hodges, you know. Anyway, look, let's move on. I didn't really want to talk about Lee Anderson on tonight's show. I wanted to talk about this news story. This is a little bit more, you know, this podcast, if that makes sense. Because I don't want to, like, the party politics is fun-ish, kind of, like when there's something really fun to, like, rant and, like, dig into. But sometimes I just want to, I want a bit of tabloid nonsense to just tap into, you know? Something that makes me ashamed to be British. Something that makes me go, yeah, no, that makes perfect. I can't believe this hasn't happened 20 times. So, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this story. It's been bubbling up the last few days. It's the Willy Wonka scam up in Scotland. I've got a news story here. Police called to Willy Wonka chocolate experience as families furious. A Willy Wonka chocolate experience, right? That's the attraction. And the police get called because the families they're not happy with this experience, guys. Like I read this story And I was like, oh, I love it. I love it. I mean, we talk a lot in our generation and throughout the geopolitical landscape about this culture of snowflakism, you know, or the snowflake generation, or these kids can't take anything these days. Well, nothing is more snowflakey than a group of parents calling the police because their child attraction thing didn't live up to their expectations, you know? I mean, I've had bad experiences in various, you know, food retail outlets that have left me seething with rage, but I have never felt the compulsion to pick up my phone and call emergency services about it. You know? Officer, arrest that man. No! It doesn't even inhabit my head for even a second to call the police for a customer service matter. I mean, like, here's the thing. Here's how you know you are still, like, traumatized by your upbringing. Or, you know, you were raised to self-loathe. Or whatever. It's like, when I go to a place and I pay, you know, however much this, like, 20 quid, 30 quid, right, for a ticket for something. Like, we went to Legoland a year and a half ago, something like that. Went to Legoland. That was about £32 a ticket. And I went in there and it was shit. It was... I'm sorry if anyone's watching this who works at Legoland or who really loved Legoland, but it was fucking shit. It was so bad. Everything was like sun bleached and peeling. It was dirty. The queues were horrendous. Everything was a rip-off. It's supposed to be a happy place. You're supposed to walk in there and like come out laughing with your kids and stuff. I walked out there seething. I was like, 32 quid a ticket. That is like premium money. Do you know what else we could have got for £32 each? Like, I would have paid £32 each for us to not be here. And I would have been really happy about that. It'd be a great experience. Fuck Legoland. But no, like, here's how you know you were raised to self-loathe. Like, you're still traumatized. It's like, I would pay, in all seriousness, I would pay like 30 quid a ticket for me, my son, my girlfriend, my daughter, all of us to go to something comparable to this, which I guess would be like, you know, pay a ticket to go and pick a pumpkin or go and choose your own Christmas tree. You know, it's a day out and it's, you know, there's fake reindeer there. I would pay £30 a ticket for that. And I'd walk in and it would be a rip-off and then I'd leave. And then this is how you know you race yourself. Like, I would leave and I'd be like, I deserve this. You know, I should have researched it. You know, I should have looked into it and this is what I get. I deserve this bad experience and being barked at by my girlfriend about how shit it was. I deserve this. But obviously, that's not everyone. You know, clearly for other people, they pay £30 a ticket, go into something, and they're like, this is an outrage and I want these people jailed. I mean... Just imagine having that level of self-confidence to you. Oh my God. Imagine having that amount of the customer is always right in your psyche, in your psychology, that you actually think it's basically criminal to disappoint your customers. Oh yeah, I should call the cops about this. This makes perfect sense. This feels rational and reasonable to me. Anyway, look, so let's go through the news story, shall we? It says frustrated parents who had paid £35 a ticket branded the event a farce, and they said their children were left upset. £35 a ticket for the Willy Wonka chocolate experience, guys. 35 quid. What does that get you? Do you think? Should we take a look? Here we go. All right, here we go. I mean, it doesn't look that bad, does it? It's got, like, you know, colourful thing. It's in the middle of a warehouse, but, you know, it's okay. It's got blue pipes, big rainbow archway that you walk through. That bouncy castle? I think that's a bouncy castle. And looks like a sort of Willy Wonka themed picnic blanket pinned up against a wall. So yeah, I mean, it's not as bad as I was imagining. You know, there's candy canes, there's teddy bears, there's the rainbow archway thing, there's backdrops and set pieces. Anyway, it says police were called to an immersive event inspired by Willy Wonka in Glasgow after furious parents complained about the quality of the event. All right, angry parents, awesome. Willy's Chocolate Experience, organised by immersive events company House of Illuminati, promised ticket-goers an enchanting day out where dreams come to life. And what I love about this news story is they've put enchanting in inverted commas. It says where dreams come to life, also inverted. I mean, clearly they're quoting what was promised to the parents and to the children, but I don't know. There's a sort of sarcastic flavour to it, isn't there? They promise ticket goers an enchanting day out where dreams come to life. Right. Anyway, held at the Box Hub warehouse in the White Inch area of Glasgow, parents were promised a day of pure imagination and wonder. However, when families arrived at the venue on Saturday, they were met with a room sparsely decorated with plastic props, a small bouncy castle. Oh, it was a bouncy castle, and backdrops pinned to walls. I mean, I keep thinking back to this pure imagination and wonder line, because it's like, I mean, it's not 100% inaccurate, is it? I mean, if you're going to sue them for trade descriptions or selling an experience that is different to that which was marketed to them on the posters and the flyers and whatever, a day of pure imagination and wonder is, you know, bouncy castle and a selfie by a candy cane for £35. All of the kids are like, yeah, where's the unstoppable gobstoppers? Like, where's all of the Oompa Loompas dancing and stuff? Oh, yeah. You just got to imagine them, guys. Just really, really get imagining there. It's a day of pure imagination. I tried to tell you. And wondering why you've spent £35 for each one of these kids to take them here instead of the Pirates Landing soft play like your sister begged you to. Begged you to book tickets to the soft play, but you insisted because you thought this would be fun. And now look at them. It's supposed to be his birthday party, and he sat there in tears. Because this is shit. That's when the self-loathing would kick in for me. I'd be like, oh, I should have researched it. Why am I always so stupid? Anyway, it says one parent said their child was handed a packet of sweets and a wee lolly. Wait, hang on, what? A wee lolly? Because it's Glasgow, isn't it? It's like a wee lolly, right? It's a little lollipop, right? But I mean, it literally says wee lolly. And the whole day out sounds upsetting. So, like, what do I know? I mean, it could literally be a frozen lolly of urine. So, you know, you can't rule anything out with this day. It sounds very bad, very substandard. It says organisers called a halt to the event only hours after it opened, after they were met with a furious reaction by customers who had paid £35 for the experience. Police confirmed officers had been called to the venue following complaints. Police confirmed that officers had attended the event to see what was going on down there. Like, I know that police forces across the land have all been slashed to the bare minimum. I know that. We all know that. Austerity, etc. But, you know, how far has Scottish policing sunk, dear listeners, that the calibre of police officer up there has answered the phone to a customer service query? Somebody's like, yeah, there's a child attraction, you know, day out thing that's not quite what people signed up for and paid £35 for. And he's like, all right, okay, that sounds serious. I better go check this out. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Is there not something more higher priority than rolling the old blue sirens down this warehouse street? I don't know. What does that say about Scottish policing, guys? I mean, look, I'm pro Scottish independence. You know, perhaps a little bit more since I read this story. Or maybe it's a sign of, you know, police efficiency. Let's look at it glasses half full. Is that the Scottish police forces are so good at what they do. They've solved so many crimes and caught so many bad guys that honestly, all there is left to do north of that border is investigate, you know, fairly rudimentary, boring, beige customer service queries. I mean, they're just helping out where they're needed. Maybe that's what it is. I mean, I think that's why this story is so compelling to me. It's like, was it Vice News who used to do that article? Well, like once a week. It was like Crybaby of the Week, I think. I think it was Vice News. Or maybe it was like Shortlist or something. They did Crybaby of the Week, where they would like name and shame people like this who would phone up the police for, like, I suppose the famous example would be the people who, didn't they phone KFC? It was like, no, they phoned 999 to report that KFC wasn't open or something. It's like, can you just try to get a grip? This is not an emergency. Get your ass to Sainsbury's, buy some food in and cook it for you and your family. Closing KFC for a few hours is not an emergency. I mean, unless you're really hungover. Are you hungover, ma'am? Are you? Yes. Yeah, I am a bit. Well, okay then. All right, I get it. You're sort of in that weird pinch point, that weird window of like where your hangover is so severe, you're dehydrated, you're craving trash junk food like KFC, but you haven't quite spilled over into actually needing a paramedic to fit an IV and rehydrate your body by force. You're in the window. So in a way, like if I answered the emergency services call, maybe I would look at KFC like our fourth emergency service or something. Anyway, I'm going off piste here. Yes, so Crybaby of the Week used to cover stories like this. And I don't really, you know, I'm not fully across why the police need to be called out about this. Like, yeah, shut it down. You know, it looks a bit naff. Yes, pursue the organisers of it for trade descriptions, perhaps. Take them to a small claims court or something of that nature. But do the police really need to be involved at this stage? Is somebody's life in danger? You know, was there a threat to human safety as a result of it? Oh, no, you know what? I don't know. It is Glasgow, isn't it? This did take place in Glasgow. So, I mean, you know, maybe it all got a bit fighty. You know, like in London, if you put this event on in London, you put the fake Willy Wonka event on, and it's, you know, £35 a ticket to walk around a couple of candy canes with a horrible Amazon picnic thing pinned up against the wall. Yeah, take your selfies over there, and you can walk around the candy cane here, and just over the back there, you've got some Tesco trolley tokens. You know, the little like charity blue token. Yeah, you can play tiddlywinks with those in the corner. That's another activity that you've paid £35 for the chance to to use your imagination to make it better. Just imagine they're not Tesco tokens. Imagine they are, golden chocolate coins or something. Something amazing. There's no rules. You imagine what you need them to be for this to be worth £35. You could put that event on in London and charge people 35, probably 40 quid a ticket. And people would come out and go like, yeah, that's probably about right. That feels broadly accurate for London. You could do that in London. You could do it in Manchester and charge people £35 a ticket. And people would be a bit annoyed at you, I think. They'd call you a prick for it. They'd be like, I can't believe I paid 35 quid for this. Whatever, not coming here again. But in Glasgow, I reckon you could have the proper Willy Wonka event and actually have Gene Wilder show up. And it could be a great day for everyone. And still the police would show up. Or everyone would agree that it's a terrible day out, but they would people would be queuing up. They'd be like, oi, pal, I know it's shit, but me and the boy were queued to take a selfie in front of the Johnny Depp cutout before you. The other guy would be like, jog on. The whole thing kicks off. Everyone knows it's shit, but somehow it still becomes something worth fighting over. Anyway, probably going to get a load of comments now. People going, can you just don't even try a Scottish accent, Aid? All right, we're trying to build bridges. We're trying to ease tensions between Scotland and England. After the whole SNP and Speaker vote, this is not helping, Aid. And to you guys, I say, all right, I'll try and calm it down a bit. Don't want any angry Scottish people on my case. Right, so the last thing I wanted to talk about with regards to this, and then we're going to wrap up because I better go and help the missus with the kids and all that. The last thing I wanted to raise about this was that this is sort of re-emerged online. So that story came out, I think, yesterday or the day before. And now the Mail Online have said, exclusive, the face behind the Willy Wonka scam, how Billy Cool, I mean, hell of a name, right? Billy Cool. I don't know if this is his real name. I mean, maybe the breaching the trade descriptions thing, maybe it started early for him. His parents called him Billy Cool and he was like, I can't believe I'm getting away with this. Let's see how far I can take it. How Billy Cool conned kids by using AI-generated images to sell his immersive experience. He's also sold ChatGPT-authored novels on Amazon and faced backlash for cancelling a Santa's grotto. So the guy's an entrepreneur, is what we're saying. He's sold ChatGPT-authored novels on Amazon. I mean, I don't know if you guys have used ChatGPT, but it's not that good. I don't know who's buying these novels, I mean, in all honesty, it takes a lot for me to pick up fiction now, for me to pick up a novel and really, detach myself from reality and my existence and news and immerse myself in another world with other characters. It's quite rare that I would ever pick up fiction or novel. But if the novel that you were then trying to get me to read, you said this was written by ChatGPT, you wouldn't even get the end of the sentence. I would fucking feed you the book. I'd be like, you've wasted my fucking time. It's going to be awful. Have you read stuff that's produced by ChatGPT? It reads like a 14-year-old trying to write like a 40-year-old, It's like, oh, this is how writers write. And because it's been trained on various authors and novels and stories, when you give it a fairly generic prompt, write me a story about a lawyer who thinks that he's onto a big promotion, but then it blah, blah, blah. It doesn't construct a story that would actually be interesting or stimulating for you because it's trying to hit the pinch points that you've given it. And it's based on so many, 50, 100, 10,000 different stories that loosely, it's got to beige and stretch it all out. So the quality of what it produces is fucking dog shit. Who is buying his GPT novels? And do they know their GPT? Like, because wouldn't you just, if you're the sort of person that would actually read a ChatGPT novel, I mean, how dumb do you have to be to go onto Amazon and order a ChatGPT written novel, right? And then you go, oh, it's the Castle of Sir Guana shit, or like whatever it's called. And you're like, oh, that's cool. Right, oh, I can't wait to read. Why wouldn't you just go on ChatGPT yourself and say, write me a story about a guy who lives in a castle and he overcomes betrayal, and like, you just do it yourself. The browser is right there. You can tell it what you want it to write you, the story. It's quicker than waiting 3 days for it to turn up from Amazon. What kind of morons are these? Oh, God, anyway, so. I mean, honestly, if that was his last scam and people fell for it, I want to let him off with the Willy Wonka thing. Because if you become rich, if you sold like 5,000 of these ChatGPT novels and you become convinced that there's a population, there's a constituency, a market of utter morons out there, I don't know, maybe that empowers you into thinking, well, somebody's going to pay £35 to stand next to a candy cane and take a selfie next to this mat. Somebody will do it. It'd be all right. I say let him off. The guy's an entrepreneur. Give him a break, for God's sake. Anyway, so the Mail have now sort of... This is the... I was talking on the alternative paper review earlier, or maybe it was something else. I was saying about how, like, the language that's used by newspapers when they say, like, oh, the scandal has deepened. This scandal deepens now today. It means it's on, like, day 3 or day 4. Well, now that this story has deepened, now that Billy Cool has had the Daily Mail coming knocking, I mean, frankly, like, if he had just, like, in that warehouse, like, if he just picked up the candy cane, thrown it in the bin, if he had just, like, wheeled out this thing and then the selfie, the Johnny Depp, and then, like, if he just cleared it all out and filled that warehouse with useless PPE, the Daily Mail would probably celebrate him. They'd be like, look at this guy, look at this young go-getter. Ingenuity, made the right connections. I'd say lay off him a bit. But yeah, now the Daily Mail have come knocking. Now he's seeking to, sort of clear his name a little bit. Clarify his intentions, it says. It says, fighting off allegations of dishonest marketing. He says, we guarantee a full refund from Monday. Oh, that's nice. That's cool. He says, yes, we did use artificial intelligence to create some images for the event. So he's used AI, he's generated these images, mid-journey. There's probably like pictures of happy kids gallivanting, running through this warehouse, maybe, or something similar. Maybe he's literally concocted like mid-journey images of the old school, like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, people genuinely having an incredible time. And then he sold kids £35 a ticket, to go and experience that. And it turns out that is not quite what they've got. But yeah, I think you're actually going to see a lot more of this, I feel like we're sort of comfortably into that time now where all of this technology, AI, image generation, video generation, all of this stuff is becoming so just out there. And if not free to use, then really actually quite cheap to use. And so obviously scamsters are going to use it as much as legitimate, or as often as legitimate businesses will, right? So it stands to reason that people are going to missell or oversell the experiences that they wish they were in a position to provide to their customers. It's going to happen. It is. And I think it will continue to happen and continue to disappoint parents until the VR technology catches up, or like the Matrix cocoon egg technology catches up. And then actually it really will be an immersive experience, because he's only held back by the confines and constraints of reality. Like, think of it like that. Here he sold this experience. He's shown them the images of what it is that he wishes he could provide. The only thing that's standing in his way from actually providing that is the fact that this grotty warehouse and these shitty props and these backdrops that are pinned up are substandard. If he could lock these customers into cocoons like the Matrix and just broadcast the images directly into their eyeballs, then they would actually be experiencing the exact images and stuff and things that he's sold to them. Anyway, look, guys, I'm going to have to go. Thank you so much for continuing to tune in. I'll be back Friday night, hopefully with a guest, and I'll be back next week with a solo show once more. Thank you so much to the Patreons for your continuing support. I'll go through your names now. So thanks once again to Kerry, Rachel, Bowman, Kai, Chris, David, Martin Maracas, Mojo Sabian, Peter Del Monte, Pingu, Stuart and T-Rex. And then we've got Aaron, Alex, Jeff McGow, MJ Nichols, Ned Berg, Sarah Setters, Simon Flack, Aid, Margaret Abagai, on Court and Foire, Cycletricity, Christine Cash and Gareth Jennings. Anyway, that's it from me. Keep yourselves booged. Keep it strictly #Bimfluencer, and I am out this motherfucker.